All right. Thanks everybody for joining. If you haven't noticed, I renamed my channel based off of some advice that I got from some viewers. So no longer Lethal Arms Network. It is now just my name. And we are here today with the one and only Pradeep Singh from Arm Wrestling News. Blessed to have this guy giving me some motivation. So if you have not done so yet, please jump over to Arm Wrestling News, give him a like, share, and subscribe. Help grow his channel. Do the same for ours as well.
Thank you,
So
Paul.
Pradeep,
Thank you.
yeah, Pradeep again has been motivating me, and he stays on top of the topics. He gets them at the cutting edge. So we're actually going to let Pradeep drive this conversation a little bit and just get it flowing.
Yeah.
So Pradeep, tell us what's going on most recently, because I know we
Yeah.
had to wait about 5 minutes to do this one so that we could hear the latest.
hmm So before we start discussing a couple of topics, I'm motivating Paul to be active on YouTube, and he's going to motivate me to start training so that I do not lose the internet polls against Rebecca Todd and Jody Larrett in an arm wrestling match.
There are certain things that are more important than just the news.
Yep.
You can't be leaving them polls, Pradeep.
I
You
don't even
can't.
care. I don't even care about the matches. I just want to win those polls on the internet. That will make my day. So
Uh,
we are going to discuss a couple of things. First one is we're going to continue the live stream discussion because I think this is a big part of the arm wrestling community right now. If the most powerful person in the arm wrestling community, which is Engin Terzi, if he's taking so much interest in this topic, it means we have to kind of discuss it. And second topic is also about East versus West. Some of the recent announcements that were just made by Engin Terzi 1 hour ago, those are interesting as well. So Paul, continuing with the live stream commentary, what did you get from the recent Fix episode that was less than 24 hours away? Like, what was your take from it?
Yeah, so I dropped out of that one midway, and we can get into that and everything else. But I mean, the topic popped up not because Neil was planning on talking about it, but it popped up in the comments in the super chat. So someone sparked it. It's clearly something that people want to talk about right now. It's a hot topic. So I know Uncle John had to drop, and he brought it up before he left. Are we going to talk about this or what? So what I've garnered thus far is that Angan is doing um, what he can um, in taking everyone's perspective into account. At first, it seems like he was taking the advice of a few different people, like the live stream could be detrimental and blah, blah, blah. And I see that perspective. But then he did turn around and listen to people like you, Ryan Bowen and John and the different, the streamers. And he did see those perspectives. So the conversation progressed on to like a lot of the details involved with it, like how can we make it amicable for both parties? And he, at this point, I guess, is not saying, he's not asking the community not to do them. However, I side with him a little bit in that he does seem to value the fact that if he were to ask people not to do it, he would hope that they would respect his wishes.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's the right way to handle it. Being open-minded, seeing the perspectives, understanding that there is no statistical data that we can prove one way or another. Right now, we're all operating off of speculation. And there's two different sides, and both can be supported with rationale. So he seems to be seeing that. The conversation got a little tricky when John said something along the lines, I don't give a damn what anybody says, I'm going to keep doing. And I think that was John just being in his persona, that he's kind of created. And Angan being who Angan is, he took it very literally. And there was a little bit of tension. And I exited I exited the stage at that point in an effort to kind of cut that off and hope that it would dissipate, and it kind of did a little bit. So don't know where that's going to go, but I thought that was interesting tension. What was your take on all that?
First of all, Paul, one thing that I never knew till about now about the arm wrestling community, that I hate this thing about arm wrestling, and it is the ability or the requirement to question people. I've not seen anyone cross question anyone, literally anyone. Whenever there is any senior arm wrestler or any like larger than life figure in the world of arm wrestling speaks anything, literally no one has the guts to ask any questions. Okay, it is Engin's choice. He doesn't want to reveal who is the big arm wrestler, like very high level arm wrestler, who suggested him that the pay per views are are hurting the live streams are hurting the pay per view sales. But if I were on that fixed show, which Neil wouldn't let me on because I've already asked him many times and he just doesn't reply. He'll answer my all of my questions, but he knows that this guy can question, and Neil doesn't want people who can question to be on the fixed show. At least me. So about that, why my question is, why didn't anyone ask Engin, okay, we do not want to know the name, like who said this, but why did he give you any reason, like how are they hurting the pay-per-view? When he talked with Don Idris said that yes, pay-per-view sales are getting hurt because of live stream commentary. Did Engin ask Don why, like what is your
I don't
logic
know.
behind that?
I don't know. My assumption is Angan didn't speak to it because it's probably like the understood, perspective of if there is another option, some people will take that option over the paper.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that, hey, I can get a similar but lesser experience, or maybe even a greater experience, depending on what my motivation is. I can go there and I have another option and I can save the money, or maybe I just don't want to support, whatever the case may be. I think the most interesting argument in support of the live stream is the live chat,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I jump on lots of stuff, and I'd be lying if I told you I didn't jump on other people's live streams when I'm driving, and maybe I did purchase the pay per view. I'll still jump on the live stream, and I jump on the live stream because I got a little bit of troll in me too, and I like to see the comments and I like to interact. So um, aspect, and I can also see how somebody would buy the pay per view and still be chatting.
Yeah.
So I see that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, and
then
I
then
feel like that it's an added value.
if commentary is the problem, then have your own commentary stream, just solve it that way. I don't know why nobody has suggested that to Engin, or why Engin has not suggested that to Core Sports. Have a separate commentary only live stream and like charge $5 for that, because you're providing premium quality audio, and our live stream commentary is like lagging at least 5 to 10 seconds. That commentary from Turkey with professional like experienced commentators and everything, that will be almost like real time. Have a separate commentary live stream as well. But then people would like to chat. Then if Engin does that from his YouTube like membership page for $5 or whatever, commentary only stream, then Core Sports is going to say no, this one is going to hurt our pay-per-view sales, because many people will
Right.
choose this and it will hurt the pay-per-view. Then have a separate stream on Core Sports, like a commentary only stream, where they can have only like the only like the same commentator said that they have now, Neil Pickup and Ryan Bowen. They can either choose to display that same audio commentary, or they can have a separate set of commentators who are there just for the live
Right.
commentary only. I think that can be done. And coming back to the topic of asking questions, Neil was saying that UFC doesn't like live streams, and Engin after that asked, "Did you say that UFC doesn't like it? UFC are against it?" And Neil was like, "Yes." And nobody on the stream asked Neil, like, "How did you come to that conclusion? Like, where did you hear that? Like, did you hear Dana White say that? Did you hear anyone else say that?" Like, I searched for it. Like, if UFC has UFC, I've never heard UFC talk about anything like that.
I tend to think um, that's probably just from his experience with MMA. I don't know. I never heard anything specific myself. I followed MMA
Mm.
for some time,
Yeah.
but again, I can see how they would be potentially against it, because again, the revenue is pay per view. So like that specific sport is funded way more off of pay-per-views than, like, let's say, live viewership, merchandise, and things of that nature. Bigger
Mhm.
sports, that don't do pay-per-views and they televise their stuff, they're selling seats, they're selling millions and millions in merch.
Yeah.
MMA is a little bit more of a niche, so I could see the rationale as to why maybe Dana White say, hey, we need these pay-per-views and we don't want other options where people can get around them.
But we have seen Dana White speak against illegal live streams. You can search like Dana White live stream. Just type a couple of words and you'll see him talking about illegal live streams. What is an illegal live stream? People who are actually showing the video, and even talks about like catching those people and just legally prosecuting them, taking them to court, which I believe should be the step when the organization gets big. But he never talks about these live commentaries where they're not showing audio or video or anything. I think Neil just wants to push his beliefs, and he's literally, I think he's literally lying about that. Can somebody make a clip and send it to Neil Pickup? Neil Pickup, I think, is lying about that, or ask him to show a proof where UFC or Dana White spoke against live streams where there is no audio and no video shown. I doubt he
I
can show
don't
that.
think I don't think he's lying. I just don't think maybe it's readily accessible to us. I'm
No,
sure if we have,
I think he
we have
knows. I think he knows. Dana talks about illegal live streams where they're showing the video, audio, everything. And Neil personally doesn't like these commentaries. This is why he may have thought that nobody's going to do his research. Let me just kind of mix those couple of things and tell them, like, nobody would notice. This is why I think questioning is very important, because if I was on that show, I would have asked him right then and there, like, where did you get this? I also want to see that video or article or whatever. Like, how you got that information? There
right.
is no information. I tried to do some research. Nobody's talking about. Do you think Dana White has some time to
I
talk
mean, I
about someone who's just
I
doing?
could imagine that this was probably something way early on, though. You know what I mean? Like maybe this is something in the infancy early on, and people had other options. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I would think it's coming from somewhere, and they'll probably have
And
quick responses.
even talking about this pay per view, East versus West, by far the best product that arm wrestling has ever seen. I don't think someone like me commentating without any audio and video has the ability, the capacity to hurt the pay per view sales of such an amazing event. I don't think I'm capable of doing that.
Well, it's interesting because I think there, and like John mentioned something that, like, the piracy things, these the things of these nature are going to become a bigger thing as the sport keeps growing.
Yeah, for
But I
sure.
think Amy's looking at it from the perspective of right now, we're only selling, let's say we sell 5,000 pay-per-views. We're so small that if we lose 200 of those, that could have a detrimental effect.
Hmm.
So like right now, because the overhead is so high and the revenue is so low and the margin is so thin, he's worried now. Where I think he thinks, like, as it grows, like if it grows exponentially and now they're selling 40,000, it would be less detrimental because of the reach of the live streamers. Right now, you guys only have so much reach. You're on there
Hmm.
for eight hours, you get 60,000 views. I mean, at the end of the day, that's good, but it ain't really that much. But like, if there was a huge channel, like let's say Devin's channel did it, then the percentage impact could be higher. So those are
Hmm.
things to keep in mind too. But again, I think the way, Engin's basically saying, I see your point. We don't have data. Let's just move forward and
Yeah.
let's just all be friends,
Hmm.
basically. So, but
And
I do think like Engin is not the guy to take a hard line with and say, I'm going to do it no matter what. Basically just out of respect. And it's the same conversation we had earlier. If your dad wants to listen to your rationale why you want to do something and he wants to weigh it and take it into account, then thank goodness for having an open-minded dad. But at the end of the day, if your dad says no, you're not doing it because I'm your dad, then you got to listen to your dad. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Right. And one other important thing is that most of the people who are joining these live streams before the event, because we do actually start 60 or 90 minutes before the live stream, most of the people are asking, like, when is the event? Where can we buy the pay-per-view? Nobody's taking into account how many doubts those live streams are clarifying. Like King of the Table 1 or 2, at that time, their promotion was so bad about the event, like the date of the event, where can they purchase, like what time does the matches start. Literally nobody knew about, like, these streams are the perfect thing to let people know as to where you can purchase the pay-per-view and what time the matches are going to start.
Well, and that's where I think the meeting point comes into play, right? And John made a mention of saying, like, okay, well, me and Jake, when we do it, we take, whatever the super chats or whatever revenue, and they're buying the shirts, you know what I mean, that Angus sells and giving them away or whatever. Like they're putting some of that back in. you know? So, and like Angan basically emphatically said, no, I don't want to stop you from making money. But to me, the gesture is more important than the action. So it's
Mm.
one of those things where like you take your buddy out to dinner and you have full plans to pay for the meal, and you pay for the meal. If he doesn't offer to leave the tip or something, you might be like, you know what I mean? Why didn't you offer? I was going to say no anyway. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
So like the gesture is more important than the action. But I do think that there could be like an understood agreement too, where the live stream channels make a conscious effort between every match to promote the link, or be
Yeah.
like, hey, if you want to see more, the next match coming up here, go to this link, make sure you go support. This event really needs it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? If that was just done like a paid integration in between matches, to me, that's like a happy medium, and it's a great gesture. And it's a symbiotic relationship then, if there is an intent, not just to, all right, I'm going to have a live stream, make a little bit of money, grow my channel off of this event, but now you're giving some like unpaid promotion back to it. To
Yeah.
me, whether that's needed, the gesture is important. You
Yeah.
know, does it help? Sure, I don't see why it wouldn't help. But if we don't have data to know if it does, the gesture is more important than the action.
Mm. And I think everything is going to grow in the same ratio, in the same proportion. If the event is going to get big, where Engin might think, well, now instead of 10,000 pay-per-views, I'm selling 100,000 pay-per-views. Maybe it will take like 5 6 years, 3 4 years. But that at that time, I think the piracy is going to increase 10 times as well. And
Yeah.
now, since there are, let's say, three illegal pirated streams that are showing the video, it is possible for Engin to track them down and to hunt them down. So literally, even a day after, you can search Devon Laird versus Prudnik, and there is no match to be found. It is
Okay.
possible for them to hunt like a limited number of viewers. But when the sport gets big and there are, let's say, 30 illegal live streams and 100 illegal videos, I think it will be impossible for them to hunt.
Right.
And Engin has also
Yep.
started speaking about these things when the event has gotten big enough, where Engin believes that, yeah, my event can self promote. Engin didn't talk about it during East versus West 2 or East versus West 3 when the organization was still small. And if we go back to the Todd Hutchings versus Chan Shaw pay per view, Steve Pettis, nobody in the world knows who Steve Pettis is except for the people living in USA. Magda, the event in the Krasimir versus Matt Mask event. Magda, I think it was her name, the name of the promoter. Nobody knows who she is, and if somebody does live stream on those events like Chan Shaw versus Todd Hutchings live stream commentary, it is going to probably sell more pay-per-views just because of the live stream than what they actually did by their own promotion, because Chan Shaw is not interested in promoting, Todd Hutchings is not interested in promoting himself, and nobody knows the promoter. How are they going to sell the pay-per-views? I think they have to depend on the YouTubers, and who knows, if they also get big in the future, they may also try to shut down these YouTube
Right.
commentaries.
Well,
Nobody knows.
on the smaller scale, the pay-per-views I don't think have been very lucrative for the local events in the United States, which is again why I keep coming back and saying that the Michael Todd way is the way to do it. If you're not, you know what I mean? If you're starting very small, offer it free, get some paid integrations or something like that. But again, I mean, all these promoters they're doing different things, they're trying different things, and they're learning as they go. And you could be right about that. The live promotion could be good as the promotion leading up to you know
Yeah. So I think, Paul, it is enough about discussing this. I think if we
beat this
stop
horse.
on
We've
Engin's,
been beating the horse. It's been dead for like 2 days, and we just keep beating. I don't
yeah, it always starts from the fix. Last time also,
know.
Devon said something which made absolutely no sense, and it started. This time also, it started from the fix, because apparently Dana White called Neil Pickup and told him that he doesn't like these live streams. Well, Dana didn't
Uh,
call Paul Linn, but he called Neil Pickup, so we have to talk about it.
well, I don't know Dana. Neil might know.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about East versus West now. Few matches that have been announced. We'll talk about all of the matches. Corey West versus Arif Artem on the left arm.
Yep, I love that match, man. I think Corey is like when you talk about the United States, like the best that we have to offer of the new guys. I think, and regardless of if he's 400 pounds or not, he might be like the pound for pound best thing that we have to offer. And he's still young. and he's only getting better, and he's training
You
with a
said
really
you
good
said
coach.
pound for pound.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, but like I'm saying from the total package, right? So he passes the eye test. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like meaning like if you see this guy on camera next to whoever, like who else are you going to put across from Alex Kardec and be like, well, that's a big dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So the heavyweights are what sells, and Corey is our next best heavyweight.
Hmm.
And he's not even where he can be yet,
Yeah.
and he hasn't been arm wrestling that long, and he's just getting better. So like anytime that we can see him go overseas and we can really test him out and see where he's at is good, regardless of how he does. It's just a barometer for where he's at and how much further he needs to go to get to be where he wants to be. Because I,
Mhm.
I do think that he is the next guy for sure for us.
Corey is like really, really amazing. I don't know about right, like where he would stand in the world rankings, but I think on the left arm he could already be easily top 10 in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Nobody really talks about it
yeah.
because it's left,
I
and
cannot
his
really
left is
think of I cannot really think of many names who can beat Corey on the left right now.
we're like, it's one of those things where when I pull with Corey, like I can get a gauge on his right because we're not close. Like he's stronger than me, but there's like you can feel like all right, I'm not gonna stop if I do this or
Mm.
something. But left arm, and my left's not bad at all. It's just not. It's versatile. My left is strong. Is comparably strong to my right, and I mean he don't even feel me. Like he don't.
Mm.
It ain't even like I might as well not even go get two heavy bands and maybe I'll be able to work him. He's on another planet, left arm,
Mm.
and again he's just getting stronger. You know, so I'd love to see him. We we got he's actually pulling in 2 weeks. He's pulling Cody Merritt left
Yeah.
arm. So we'll get a good lead up test for that one. I think I do have Corey as the favorite for sure in that one. And if he lives up there, we'll see how that match goes, how easy or hard it is. We'll get a gauge on where he's going to be in 8 weeks for
Mhm.
ours.
Yeah. So even if Corey loses that match, still I think he's really great because that can be a stylistic thing as well. Cody Merritt looks almost the way he pulls, like he's also willing to give everything up just to keep that pronation. He looks really, really difficult to hook. And I know Artem Morozov has told Engin that he's not going to compete because he's injured. I think he's injured on the right arm. But what if Corey West beats beats Cody Merritt on the left? Do you think then Artem versus Corey West can also be good on the left arm?
Artem Morzov,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
because yes, it
how do
clearly
we
looked like
know? Yeah. How do we know? Because like I mean, I guess at this point we're talking about two different styles too.
yeah,
So we saw Artem, basically have very little opposition with Cody,
yeah.
but his
But in the first
style,
round, Paul, in the first round, there was kind of a balance for like 3 4 seconds. They looked kind of equal. Then Artem took
yeah,
over.
yeah. I mean, I think if if Artem pulls Corey, it's going into a hook. Like we're going to see it there,
Yeah.
and we've seen Dedekan and Morozov, in a hook with Dedekan being, it Corey is going to put it in a hook. So we're going to get a gauge on where those guys' hooks really
Yeah.
are at the highest level. So
Mhm.
to me, that's super, super interesting. It's like the best young rising star from the East, and then like the best that we have from the West as far as the new guard too.
Mhm.
So I love the idea of spicing that up and just seeing. I mean, I'm really excited to see where Corey is. We saw the Kardashian match, we saw the Krasimir match. So we saw him pull some Europeans, saw him have some success. Even in the Kardashian match, I think that match was totally in the balance early on. Like there was things that could have went the other way. Um, so I think we continue to see his evolution one way or another. And I think the guy's great, and I like him as a person too. So maybe I'm biased.
Yeah. So Arif Artem did not win WAF this year. I think Georgy Swetkov from Bulgaria won it. So he did not win WAF, which can be indicative of his level that he is not even the best and in the tested leagues 110 plus kg. And if we talk about his other matches, he lost quite badly to Hermes Gasperini. I think it was East versus West 2. And before that, On the left arm, he lost to Morozov, I think. So his record recently has not been that great. Yes, he won 2021 WAF super heavyweight, but other than that, we have not seen great performances from him. So two questions, Paul. Do you think is like difficult questions, but if you were to guess, can Arif top roll Corey, or if Corey gets him in a hook, can Arif match him in a hook as well?
So Corey's left is so dominant. Like
Right,
Corey's
right,
right,
right. This is right.
right arm,
Yeah, right.
right arm.
Yes,
I
this is
don't.
right.
I think everyone is going to struggle to cleanly top roll Corey. You know what I mean? Like we saw him with
Alex.
Berdetchev
Yeah,
early, early on, and his containment was so good. Eventually, it gassed. I think there was a lot of things at play there. I
yeah.
hated his strap setup. I hated. I just the setup left a lot to be desired. He could have protected better. But this guy tries to contain Michael Todd every time he practices. He's trying to contain like the best Kings mover in the game, and he's does a like the hand work out there is incredible. So I don't see him getting top roll. We didn't see him get top rolled by John. You know, he's pretty much top roll proof. Then the question is, how far has his hook developed once he puts it there?
Mm.
If he can put the match there, how much horsepower does he have?
I think it will be a great match, great match. As soon as we saw Corey West compete against Alex Kordecha, I think immediately people started demanding this match, Arif Artem versus Corey West, which can happen on the both arms, but I think on the left, Corey will be a big favorite against Arif. So next update is Ongarbayev versus Irakli has been cancelled. So now John Brzenk said that he wants to face Irakli. John said that he wants to face him. Who do you think is going to win in this match, John or Irakli?
John, and the reason I'm saying that is because John, like Irakli, is one of the, he's super elite and such a clean top roller, such a strong hand. But we kind of saw a little bit of a hole there against Hutchings, where Hutchings posted up, allowed his wrist to go back, kept his pronator, and went sideways. John can do that too. That's kind of been his. I mean, we basically saw a little bit of it against Olin.
Hmm.
So like he's very comfortable rotating out and letting his hand go, and then accessing that pronation and still going sideways. So I think Engen mentioned to me that after the Hutchings match, Irakli came up to him and was like, "Hey, what am I doing wrong?"
Yeah,
And
cupping.
Engen, yep, cupping. You got to defeat the pronator. Like you have to get better at defeating the pronator. So I think Irakli's been focusing on it. So maybe if he's made gains there, we see it go the other way. But you got to kind of favor John. And I don't think John's going to ask for a match that he doesn't think he can win. So I think the old dog is getting better by the event. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
But if we see John's recent matches, John has trouble against anyone who can do this. Like
Mhm.
they are willing to open up their arm just to keep that pronation. Irakli is not going to do that. John Brzenk can do that. We saw that. Like Michael Todd can do that. We saw in the practice against Michael Todd against John Brzenk. Michael was doing that. John was not really comfortable getting into that flop wrist position. John can press like that, but John doesn't really want to be in this position where his wrist has been broken back. So Irakli is not going to do that. Other options, whenever someone tries to do this to John Brzenk and go sideways, John has felt comfortable against those guys, be it Corey West or be it Oleg Petrenko. And there are some guys who like to go back, like Irakli is going to do. And Ongarbai was also, I think he was trying to go back first and then hit with pronation and sideways. I think not exactly the same. Irakli is much, much more back pressure based arm wrestler, but somewhat similar. Do you think the match can also go similar to the Irakli versus Ongarbayev match? And who? My first question would be, who were you favoring in that Irakli versus Ongarbayev match if that were to happen?
I was favoring Agrabayev.
Okay.
I was favoring him based on his ability to really post up high. Like basically that difference between him and John, I felt like was his ability to be high, get back pressure, pronation, and cup down. Like exactly basically what Engen's saying. Like it's the cupping against the pronation, which I'm just banking that Irakli hasn't cleaned it up as much yet. And I just think I think Ankur Baya is a special dude. And I feel like if he's healthy, he's coming off an injury, he's just going to keep getting better each match. So I like, seeing where he was at off the injury with John, I gotta believe he's going to be a notch better. So that's kind of how I saw it. Now, as far as Irakli being able to do that to John, possibly, possibly, because that's kind of what we've seen with John in his comeback. We've seen him being very comfortable in a hook, very comfortable with rotation and down pressure in the hook. We've seen him being comfortable, pulling with his hands slightly back and protecting his pronator. We've seen him comfortable there, but we haven't necessarily seen him super comfortable with an elite top roller high and being able to get wrist flexion. Like I don't know if all of John's cupping strength is back yet, which
Yeah.
I think could come into play into that match. Now we saw early on John's comeback, he pulled Dimitri Kachan, and Dimitri basically completely took his hand. Now that was like the second match back, so he's definitely gotten stronger since then. But John was able to, flop wrist side pressure right through him, which was super gutsy. And that also leads me to believe too that even in a scenario where Irakli can take his hand completely or maybe defeat the pronator a little bit, John still has so much going sideways.
Yeah.
So, and John's back pressure, the other thing too is, and I've felt it, like he's hydraulic back pressure. Not many people are taking him off center. Like you said, when we see him having trouble with the open top roll, it's the hands are usually like they're not open to, it's not starting with taking John's hand this way.
Yeah.
It's just uncomfortable for him to press in the rotation out when the hands are in the center of the table. We normally see him press or come if he doesn't have his hand, he wins center coming this way before that press comes. That press comes when he can transition his shoulder behind it. And against the King's move, you got to kind of go across the table to do that. And I don't think John's comfortable there.
Mhm. So, from the things you said, I have a couple of questions for you. Like Todd Hutchings, you mentioned him earlier. Todd was offensive against Irakli. The match never went to this side of Todd. Like it was always this side. Todd slightly lost his wrist, but it was a wall. It wasn't moving. So, do you think John is going to be on the offensive or John is going to be on the defensive against Irakli?
I think that'll be a deciding factor. I do think John will probably crowd center and he'll probably load up nicely, you know what I mean, to prepare for that. But
Mhm.
as long as John's pronation is protected, even if it goes off to the defensive side a little bit, if that rotation comes with it, even if the hand goes back, he's still comfortable. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? He can go a few degrees this way.
Yeah.
Where I think Todd's more shoulder driven, you know.
Mhm.
He's just setting up in there on his elbow and just going.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to think Irakli at his age has gotten stronger and better for sure.
Yeah.
So a very interesting match nonetheless. I mean, but I still come back to like if John suggested the match, John usually knows he's thinking two steps ahead of us. So
Yeah.
we'll
And the second question to further discuss this conversation, I may have to bring up two matches when Irakli was not as big as he is right now. One was against Dan Mosier, and second one was against Sasha Andreev. That was way back. But you also mentioned hooking part. So do you really think in this match? I'm not saying that you did say that, but my question is: do you think Irakli can be hooked by John Brzenk? Keep in mind that this guy is someone who is hammer curling more weights than Levan Sagin actually.
I think
I
it's
don't
going to
think he can be
be.
hooked.
I don't. I think if we see it go into a hook, I don't think we'll see it at the go. Like John's transitions are unbelievable. Like I could see the match going a couple different places, some gas being put on Irakli. I mean, very similar to Angerbaya, that first round going into a hook, and the rest of them didn't. I think that was just a product of John's transition and Angerbaya finding where he can and can't go. So yeah, I don't see that going into a hook unless it's mid match later on where John can do one of his amazing transitions and do those things that the rest of us can't do. So you can't say it ain't gonna happen, but I would think that the probabilities of it going into a hook would be low. But maybe John will hear this and say, you know what, I'm gonna prove you wrong. So
No, I don't think. I don't think. At least in the first couple of rounds, if Irakli is completely gassed out and John is trying different things, maybe in the third round. But man, that back pressure, that posting back pressure, It's so strong. I don't think he can be hooked. And this is why I brought up the couple of matches that we're going to discuss now. Irakli against Sasho Andreev. Yes, Sasho was able to force him in the hook in round two. First round, he was also not able to do that. And Sasho is one of the greatest arm wrestlers when it comes to forcing a hook on someone. Like literally, almost no one is able to top roll him. RVJ was not able to do that. Irakli was almost able to do that in the first round. Then in the second round, it kind of stayed flat. Then Sasha had to do few like hardcore elbow breaking side pressure surges. Then after that he was able to get some kind of cup. I don't think John is going to do that like without his wrist. Like there are some European arm wrestlers you may have seen, like they don't care if they have their wrist or not. They'll just try to
Yeah.
just slam you sideways, and during that process they'll slowly gain some cupping. This is what Sasha did to him. I don't think John will be able to do that. And Irakli was not even 90 kilos back then. In this match, I think
Right.
he's going to show up over 100 kilos. And against Dan Mosier in 2021, we saw one weakness in Irakli's game. When he tried to go sideways, yes, he beat Dan like that, but his wrist also went slightly back against Dan when he was about to finish him. I think if at any point in this match Irakli's wrist goes back trying to finish John, you cannot really beat John like that with a broken wrist.
Yeah, especially when you're top rolling and you're counting on, defeating pronation. If it goes once, it's probably going to keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, did I have a hard time digging too much into those earlier matches down at like 85 kilograms or 87. I think he's just a different animal now. I don't know what the weight cap is for that. I'm thinking it's like 110 probably.
No,
Um,
105 match.
is it 105?
Yeah, same. Just it's just a replacement. John, Ongarbayev, Irakli, all of them compete in that same weight class. Irakli is lighter right now. I don't think he's even 100 kilos. Maybe walking around somewhere 95, 96 kilos. But he'll have to gain for that match. He cannot show up 95 kilos against a 107, 8 kilo John Brzenk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think a great match. Both of them. Like there is a possibility where we may see a first or second round pin from Irakli as well. I don't think if John wins the first round, I don't think Irakli can make a comeback like Ongarbayev did. I think it is going to be really difficult. And we've seen even when Irakli was light, the way to beat him was that to catch him on this muscle. I don't know what you call him it, but when Irakli is in this pronated position and the other guy may or may not have his wrist and he's just going sideways, he's jammed his elbow, then he kind of tires Irakli out, then presses down. Daniel Prokopchuk, when both of them used to compete in 75 kilos, Daniel beat him like that. Sasha beat him. Todd Hutchings also beat him like that. Just catch Irakli here and then keep pressing him, and then eventually he fades away. Let's see if John can do that. So final prediction, John 3-0.
Yeah, I can go with that. That's part of that heart, and talking from my heart, the other part is logic. So
Yeah.
you gotta go for that for John.
Mm-hmm. But again, I'm questioning my own words here. In that after pull, in that practice pull, Prudnik was able to force the hook on Irakli. Maybe John can do that as well. But that was
Maybe.
practice situation. Let's
Yeah,
see.
Prudnik. Yeah, Prudnik is something else though too.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ongarbayev also mentioned that he wants to pull Devon Laird. This is not confirmed yet. This is not confirmed. But then there can be like doubts like should Ongarbayev come to 115 or should he ask Devon to come down? Like that can be like they can have two titles if that match happens. Ongarbayev, if he beats Devon at 115, he can have a couple of titles. If Devon comes down, he wants two different titles, then he can have those. Like what do you think is going to happen there?
That's weird. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting to have a double weight class thing. I don't know if Engen would allow that because he might want those
No,
things to be different.
Engin said
But he
that it
didn't.
is up to them if they can
Well,
decide whatever
it's
they want.
interesting because like if it's for the title and like a guy has both titles, he can't arm wrestle twice in the same event.
Yeah,
So if
that's
Engen wants to have a title match in both weight classes, now the hands are tied a little bit. But I
that's what
think
I also mentioned this
Devin,
fact to Engin on a phone call a few days ago. Like
yeah,
that
I
can be
mean, I
confusing.
like it. I like it. I like the idea of guys holding belts or titles in different weights. Like that's cool. But I don't know how that works for the event and the business model. I think Devin did mention Angerbayev. And how tall is Angerbayev? Is he like 6'2"?
Yeah, about that. Because John now says that he's 6'1" and Ongarbayev's height that was mentioned there was 6'2", but he looked a lot taller than John. Like he looked, to me, he looked at least a couple of inches taller than John.
Yeah, I guess Angerbayev can hold the weight, to come up to Devin. But I mean, it almost, yeah, I mean, like you would think maybe a catch. I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm. So who would you favor in that match? 105 kilos. Let's say Devon cuts down to 105. Ongarbayev versus Devon.
I mean, I think if there's somebody who has the outside strength and the cupping strength to be able to defeat Devin's open top roll, he's probably around that weight that's going to climb and try and beat it that way. You got a couple different avenues. One of them is a flat wrist. The other one is height, climbing, and back pressure. So Angerbayev, technically has the tools, and we know he's a warrior. Like the guy will like die on the table. So I think at a bare minimum, it makes for a really good match. But something just tells me that Devin settling into this weight, and like reacclimating his body to it he's just gonna keep getting better there. And I know he mentioned like, I'm always gonna come up, pretty special matches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Personally, I probably actually liked, and I did say this to him, I would like to see him stay down,
Yeah.
settle in down there, that healthy homeostatic weight that he wants to be at like 255, 260. You can cut to 42. Heck, he can cut to 225 if you wanted to. I like those options for those matches, as he has kind of relinquished the idea of chasing Levon, which I think is good and healthy for him right now, for
Hmm.
his body and for his mind. Like, let's go have these great matches down here. So, I mean, 105 is, what is that? That's 230. I mean, he could do it. Devin could do it. And I think if I was Angerbayev, depending on my walk around weight, like if I would want the match, I would want Devin to come to me. I wouldn't want to meet him in the middle. I wouldn't want to try to get bigger to arm wrestle Devin.
Yeah.
I'd want to get him smaller.
Yeah, same. I have the same thoughts as well. I don't think Ongarbayev can do anything with Devon at 115 kilos. If Devon goes to 105 kilos, then that match can be interesting. And the thing that you mentioned about Devon staying at 115 is a good thing. I mentioned it in my previous video. It is kind of my fantasy. Just imagine Michael Todd cuts down to 105 kilos, dominates everyone in the world there. Devon stays at 115, dominates everyone. Like a team going to East versus West, and they're saying like we are the old broken dudes with messed up elbows, and there ain't nothing that you can do to beat us. We are going to rule arm wrestling. That would be amazing, man. Like we're going to hit that king's move every
Yeah,
round, every match, and you can do nothing about that. I would love to see that.
yeah, yeah. It would be great. And I also think like Devin going to that weight and staying there is going to elongate his career.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we don't want Devin and John and these guys to fade away or to get injured and have to bow out. So how can you not want him to stay where he's going to be the most healthy?
Right. So Todd Hutchings is also going to participate in East versus West. You are also going to go there. So suggest an opponent, because Engin has not figured it out yet. Suggest an opponent for your buddy Todd Hutchings.
Who hasn't there been talk? Who has there been talk of recently? I
I
thought I
think
heard
I
some.
think Petro
Zurab,
Petro Margaret is one arm
Zurab,
wrestler. He's a hook based arm wrestler.
Zurab
Yeah.
in East versus West this past one. Zurab asked for him.
Mm-hmm.
He asked for him.
I
I'd
don't
be
think that's a
interested.
good match. I think Todd is going to go straight through Zurab.
I think so too. I think so too. But Zurav has been like a mainstay, right? And he's become kind of like a fan favorite. He's taken on Ryan Bowen. All you got to do is beat Ryan Bowen, and your stock will go through the
Yeah.
roof. So I mean, and he's also saying that, hey, look, I'm not going to run from this guy like everybody else does. I'm going to go
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
and prove myself there. So I mean, I like that concept. I think I don't know if Zurav's there yet, but I mean, hey, but I mean, if he wants to match, I think people will tune in and watch it. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing how Todd would do against Oleg Petrenko.
I also thought about that.
Yeah, I don't know, and that one to me is like, who knows? You know what I mean? I think Oleg might have a little bit more versatility, but I mean, we've been, since John's made a comeback. There's been a lot of people calling for John and Todd. because of their history and the wars that they've had and everything else. And Todd being like, when John came back, Todd was at the top of the food chain. And I remember during John's comeback, it was like, every match, he would win. Like people would be like, well, do you think John can beat him now? You know what I mean? Or, it's like progression of like Todd starting as the favorite and John progressing into the favorite during his comeback.
Mhm.
So, I mean, having that common opponent makes that match interesting, even though the styles are so conflicting between John and Todd. So, I mean, I think that would be good. But I mean, there's a number of people out there that haven't been on the East versus West stage yet. And I know Angan talking about doing a 20 match card and doing a 2-day thing. Like we could
Yeah.
see a whole lot of new Eastern faces,
Yeah.
which I'm sure once we start digging in, there's plenty of
Yeah.
opponents.
And since you're talking about Petrenko versus Todd, if I remember correctly, John Brzenk did not want to go in a hook with Petrenko, even in the third round. He stayed there
Yeah,
and then he pressed him.
yeah,
It tells you something about Petrenko's
yeah,
hook. Yeah, so I think that
yeah,
can be a perfect match for Todd.
yeah. I think that would be a good one. And I think it's a good little like I think people would kind of get around the hype. They would build up around the hype for that because of Petrenko just pulling John.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-0 match, but that wasn't there was just some things in the balance during that match, and John was definitely uncomfortable in some setups and stuff. Like Oleg made him really really work, and a lot of people had Petrenko as a favorite. I was questioning it myself coming in. I think
Mhm.
everybody was.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see him. I mean, that'll give us a barometer maybe of where John and Todd are too, since we're not seeing West versus West matches.
Hmm. And off topic, but do you remember that Petrenko versus Zurab match? Did you get to see that? I was amazed. This is why I also think that that the Todd versus Zurab match may not be really close because Petrenko has kind of similar left and right arms, and Zurab has a stronger left arm. Still, Petrenko was easily able to control Zurab in a hook on his left arm.
We talked about excuses and stuff and all that other stuff. I talked to Zurab before the match. He wasn't confident in the match. I guess he just got a series of PPV injections in his left arm,
Hmm.
bicep tendon, part. Like he has some structural stuff there. I'm not saying that to make an excuse. I'm just saying that maybe there was a variable, and Zurab didn't say it to me in like the essence of it. It was an excuse. We were talking about PRP, and he was saying that he's going through it. So I don't know if that had something to do with
Yeah.
it. I don't know if it's good data or not, but yeah, I see where you're coming from because that one wasn't close.
And no disrespect to Zura, but I laughed really hard after watching that match because in the first round you may have seen him. Petrenko defeated him like a beginner, like the beginner side pressure move. The beginners do just this. Like we tell the beginners not to do that, and Petrenko
Yeah,
literally grab hold of him and like he did this to Zura in the first round. Like it was not a hook, it was not a top roll. He held him like this and did this just this side pressure move, beginner, and Zura had nothing for him. So
that's
another.
crazy. If Petrenko's right and left are similar, then where the heck is John's right? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
So maybe Petrenko can have a stronger left because Engin told us many times in his lives that Petrenko did beat David Dadikian on the left arm.
Okay.
And that's a big deal. It was in 2019, I think, but still it is a big deal.
Yeah.
And Dadikian was what, 21, 22 years old back then. But Petrenko is also really young. He's also 26 years old only. So Prodnik is not going to compete. We got this news as well. Prudnik injured his right arm, I think maybe against Devon, so he's not going to compete. But he did say to Engin that he can compete on the left arm. Like, who do you want to see him go up against on the left? Dadikian versus Prudnik was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen on the left, but then David Dadikian got injured against Artem Morozov. So maybe it can happen in January. But I'm not sure if Engin would like to call Prudnik just for his left arm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's better to have him than not. The guy has so much charisma. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if Yangan saying, "Okay, we're gonna make something happen for you because we want you there." I
Mhm.
do think Prudnik is, especially from the East, like he is a big time draw, and he's great with like the promotion. Like he's worth his weight in gold just for his personality alone. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. It's a good match.
And final thing, Morozov is also not going to compete. Alex Kordecha wanted Morozov. but now this match is not going to happen. Like, how do you see these two guys? A thought came to my mind, like already started preparing a video like 2022 arm wrestling news awards. If I were to give arm wrestler of the year award, like, of course, if we look at the best arm wrestler, it has to go to Levan Second actually. But no, I'll give that award to Artem Morozov. The things that he
Yeah,
has done.
I just saw, like, I guess before the event, I saw somebody did, I forget which Instagram or page did it, but they did like all like the competitors like who participate in East versus West. How many matches did they have? What is their win-loss record?
Yeah,
And I
seven
think
out
they
of
might
eight.
even, yeah, it's crazy. And then that doesn't even take into account that he just pulled right and left again. So, and he competed over in tournaments too. And he,
Hmm.
like he's doing tournaments too. Like we're talking about this past year, the guy's competed like 11, 12 times.
Yeah.
So, and he's maintaining his form. So I remember seeing him after the matches. I seen him in the hotel, the second floor lobby when I was going to my room, and I went over to like congratulate him, and he just looked like he got hit by a car, you know, like he was pale and his eyes were like red and bloodshot, and he just looked like he was sitting in a chair, like why am I doing this? You know what I mean? So I think you got to rest your body at some point. This guy's been pushing so hard, and I'm like a fan of the guy. I think he's funny. He's got a good personality. He's built like Dolph Lundgren from Rocky. Like he's the total package, but he's still young, so he has to be careful. You
Yeah.
know, as far as how hard he pushes. You don't want any chronic injuries or any health problems.
I think it's a smart decision to take a break for now. And
Yeah.
Alex versus Morozov, I think we are going to talk about that match in the future. It is not going to happen right now. So I think, Paul, before we close this up, like, any closing moments? Your channel.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, we can wrap it up here with the quick outro. Thank you all for joining us and tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Again, one more time, if you are not subscribed to Arm Wrestling News, please go do so now, as we will be collaborating on both channels. If you're not subscribed to my channel, which is now my name, do me a favor and go ahead and
Yeah.
subscribe. And we'll talk to you guys again soon, as long as Pradeep keeps me motivated.
Yeah, and suggest the name for this show as well. Paul Linn and Pradeep Singh. Suggest a name. Like, come up with the names. Let's see, and we'll also get to know who watched this interview till the end. Only those guys can suggest names. And Paul, like, just give me a couple of exercises that I need to knock down before I go to bed. Just
So
give me a task.
what you should do is baseline. Pick your things. So like not even a workout, right? You're not even workout, just take your phone and baseline your movements. I mean, back pressure, like with a strap through the hand, is the easiest one to do from a table. I think you should do it. I think you should do it like hammer curl, and I think you should do it supinated. And then you should pick another one that's easy to track. I used a thin diameter wrist wrench because I can track it going up and everything. And I think wrist flexion is really important. But pick a couple, baseline them, and then we'll we'll put together like some exercises that you can do to help develop them, other than just that movement. You know what I mean? Maybe like some added like. Do you have like weights? Like you have a pull-up bar? Or,
Yeah, like I have a children's park, like maybe 15 meters from my house, and there is a good pull-up bar there.
yeah, so and that's how we'll approach it. We'll look at those vectors and those angles, and we'll give a little bit of supporting exercises, and then let's track the progress. And like if you stay accountable, like maybe 4 weeks from now, we check back in. You know, that's
Or
the easiest way to do it. And then that's when you have more. Like, all right, now I'm gonna start adding some more strength movements in. And at that point, you got to go to your gym, and you said it's free, so you don't got any excuses. You got a free gym. Get your ass to the gym.
all right. Thanks.
All right, brother. Have a blessed one.